Welcome everyone. In today's video our topic is Hecksher Ohlin model. We are gonna study about the assumptions of Hecksher Ohlin model in today's video. Now, what is Hecksher Ohlin model? According to Hecksher Ohlin model, the theory of Hecksher Ohlin model implies that a nation that is capital abundant should export capital intensive good and a nation that is labor abundant should export labor intensive good. Now, for justifying this theory, we have some assumptions that we have to follow and accept. What are those assumptions? We are going to study it one by one. The first assumption says us that in the world there are two countries only doing trade in between them. That means in the world market there are only two countries. The second assumption tells us that there is no money in the entire world market. All the trades are basically being done by barter system or exchange systems. That means one country is gonna give another country 2 kilo of rice, and in return of the 2 kilo rice they might get 5 kilo of wheat or 10 kilo of wheat or something that is equivalent to the 2 kilo rice. Now the third assumption tells us that the foreign exchange rate is constant and it will not change with time. The foreign exchange rate is assumed to be 1. Now, the fourth assumption tells us that there is no transport cost in the entire world market in the international trade. The fifth assumption tells us the identical tastes between the countries. That means all of the consumers of both the countries are basically having the identical or same kind of taste or preferences. That means both of the countries or both of the consumers of both the countries will obviously prefer rice, or both of the consumers of both the countries may prefer wheat or may prefer steel or any kind of product that they desire. Their tastes will be identical and their tastes will be symmetrical in nature. The next assumption tells us that the factor endowment is relatively different between the countries. That means one country is capital abundant and in that scenario another country has to be labor abundant. That means suppose country A, which is capital abundant, is using capital at a very extensive rate or extensive amount to produce the good. In that scenario country B will produce the good using labor at an extensive rate or extensive amount. In the next assumption, we will say that perfect competition prevails everywhere. In both the countries, we will have the perfect competition in the market. And the last assumption tells us that the factors are homogeneous and mobile across sector. Here we have to remember that factors are basically divided into two parts in Hecksher model, that is capital and labor. We have to also identify it as one of the assumptions of the Hecksher model.